Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your June 17th meeting of your Board of Commissioners. We've got a full slate tonight. So tonight our invocation will be given by Pastor Corey Scott, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We'll ask those that are able to stand and remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance given by Emma Kate Hall. So Mr. Scott, if you'll make your way to the podium, everyone please rise.
Let's pray. Our eternal Father in heaven, we're grateful to gather in this public meeting. We're grateful for those who serve the community. We're grateful for those interested in the community. We're grateful to have a great county and have the government and the people and the citizens who make this county the wonderful place that it is. We are grateful that we could gather here to discuss the community affairs of the county. And we pray that thy Spirit will be with us, that we might be courteous, kind, understanding, and be able to blend the needs of the citizens with the rules and the regulations that we deal with and the needs of all that are involved. Help us to be polite and enjoy this meeting, and bless us with thy Spirit that we might feel peace in our hearts in all that goes on tonight. In the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ, amen.
Please remain standing, and I'll ask Miss Emma Kate Hall to make her way to the podium. She is a rising sixth grader at Rockingham Middle School, and she loves playing softball. I said a softball nut, but so she's enjoyed. Miss Hall.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Be seated. From a prepared agenda, it's the next item on our list, but I do need to note there will be a change on item 7.1 under public hearings. The address, instead of being 550 Smith Road, Stoneville, will be, is that a 8071? 8871. 8871, I can't read my own writing. 8871 NC 14 North in Eden, Leakesville Township. So with noting that change, do we have a motion for approval of our agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We do have an approved agenda. The next item is our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are non-controversial items. However, if anyone has questions about the items, please contact Lance Metzler, the county manager. At this time, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good, very good. We do have an approved consent agenda. Our next item is public comment. And we do have, well, let me see. I have two of these say public hearings. I don't have anyone on the public comment. Is that correct, Susan? All right, so I don't have anyone on public comments. So Lance, you're relieved from having to read those guidelines.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. With that being said, the next item will be 7, public hearings. Hiram Marziano, Community Development Director.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
All right. The first one we have for y'all tonight is rezoning case 2024-11. This is a request for a zoning map amendment, rezoning a parcel. Actually, it's a portion of a parcel of land from residential agricultural to neighborhood commercial. It's located at 8871 NC Highway 14, Eden, Leakesville Township. This is a straight or conventional rezoning, which means all uses must be considered when looking at the rezoning. The planning board on May 13th voted unanimously to recommend approval of this request. This is our vicinity map, north of Eden, just almost in Virginia. This is a zoomed out portion of the zoning map in the general area. You'll see that it's got a mixture of uses in the area from highway, commercial, residential mixed, residential protected, residential agricultural. This property surrounds a highway commercial lot. Environmental features, it's in the Smith River watershed. The site is more than suitable for meeting the requirements of that watershed. Right here is, it's right by one of our business nodes for intent for small scale and commercial development to help surrounding neighborhood areas. And on this map, we've got an aerial of the property just to show you where it's got the area of rezoning is plus or minus 1.5 acres. There used to be a contractor's laydown yard there. It'd be in that general area of that same footprint. So it won't be the whole parcel, just that segment that used to be the laydown yard. It's in the G1 land class, which according to our land use plan is characterized by low density growth. It's also adjacent to the rural crossroads intersection, which does argue for neighborhood commercial style businesses. This is a conventional rezoning, so please do consider all possible neighborhood commercial uses. And that's all I've got as far as the presentation for that. If you have any questions.
Very good, thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing, Marzie, and then we'll take questions after that.
All right.
So with that, we're going to open the public hearing. We do have one person who has signed up to speak, so I'll ask our attorney if he'll read the guidelines for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
By the way, this will apply to both cases. So listen up, everybody, if you plan on speaking.
All those desiring to speak during the public hearing will sign in on the sign-up sheet located at the rear of the Commissioners' chambers. For zoning and land development matters, the Director of Community Development has presented the facts in this first case, as he will in the second case, the decision of the Planning and Zoning Board and the staff recommendations. Excuse me. You sign up to speak, you will have 3 minutes to speak, or you can yield your time to another individual. However, no one individual will have no more than 6 minutes collectively. And there's a 30-minute time limit for comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. With that, we have Mr. Roger Joyner has signed up to speak. Mr. Joyner, if you'll make your way, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Roger Joyner. I live at 14947 NC Highway 87 North, which is about 500 feet north of the property that we're discussing. And first of all, I'll say that I gave each one of you a little packet that'll kind of gloss over my main concern. I really have no concern with them building on this property one way or the other, although I hate construction anywhere. I believe in property rights, and I think you have the right to build on your property whatever you want within the limits of laws and, you know, concerns of the citizens. So that's basically it. But I also believe that your rights end where mine begin, and that's kind of where I'm at. The main thing I'm concerned with is when we moved up there in 2007, one of the things I was looking at that I liked this area in particular was the nice dark skies. And I will ask you, when was the last time you saw the Milky Way? Dark skies are getting to be no more. And so when they built the Dollar General, which is between me and this property, we had a similar discussion with them, and they were quite receptive to using proper lighting and keeping the lighting down, and they've been very good at that so far. They turn off their lights at 10 o'clock. They've used all full cutoff, and if you're not familiar with those terms, they're listed on the couple of sheets that I gave you. And so I've been pretty well pleased with it. And I'm hoping that these people, these contractors, will take into account the same ideas. and use proper lighting techniques, you'll find out that good lighting doesn't cost any more than bad lighting. In fact, it's probably going to be cheaper in the long run. And it's good for not only just the sky, but the environment in general. A lot of animals are affected by lights. Birds, all kinds of animals, plant life, all these sorts of things. So that's basically my main concern. I just want to have some assurance that they will try to do their best to keep the lights down and make it so I can continue to take nice pictures. If you'll notice this one sheet that I have that has a picture of my observatory on it, plus those are actual images that I took from my observatory in my backyard. So that's why I'm a little bit concerned with this. I want to make sure I can continue to do that into my older age, okay? So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Joyner. And I didn't see the applicant. Is there anyone here that represents the applicant? I don't see any response. So with that, we will close the public hearing. And, gentlemen, do we have questions? Commissioner?
Marzie, reference our last speaker, Mr. Joyner. What can we do to help him out with light pollution?
Well, our current ordinances do require that all lighting stay on the property and not pollute over property lines. But since this is a straight rezoning, there's nothing we could add that would be above and beyond our existing regulations. Our existing regulations have developed several other commercial properties, and we've received no complaints regarding the lighting for those. So I believe it should be sufficient. While we don't have complete dark skies principles, we do encourage developers to follow them as much as possible.
I would ask, has this been mentioned to the applicant?
I'm not sure. I didn't have the initial meeting with the applicant, but we're not at the construction phase, so it might not have come up. This is just a straight rezoning, so we would only talked about possible uses of the land and how much the boundary would be. Construction and development would occur at a different time in our development process.
Yeah. Commissioner Barrow? Roger, have you talked to Mr. Tate? Directly? Okay. Okay. All right, any other questions, gentlemen? Are you still?
Included in the review process?
Yeah, TRC?
Yeah.
Would this go to TRC when they do something?
We have been taking several commercial developments of an acre or more to TRC, so this would likely go to TRC.
This will be addressed in TRC.
Yeah, we always address lighting when we go to TRC regardless. We address it even without TRC. These are standard things that go through our development regulations from our UDO. So no matter what, with or without TRC, all of the things in that Article 5 of our ordinance would be addressed, including lighting, parking, and things like that.
Mr. Joyner would be there. Probably will come.
But yeah, we do take everything that's an acre or more to TRC. I just make that as a cautionary thing.
No.
Okay. Got it.
All right, any more questions, gentlemen? With that, we'll entertain a motion. Yes, sir, Commissioner Barrow.
I make a motion to approve case number 2024-11, our request to rezone from RA to neighborhood commercial.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Very good. This takes us to our next item.
Yes, this is rezoning case 2024-12. This is a request for a zoning map amendment, rezoning a parcel of land from residential agricultural to neighborhood commercial conditional district. The location of this one is at 225 Ferris Store Road in Stokesville, the New Bethel Township. This is a conditional rezoning. Some conditions have already been applied. I'll go over those in a second. And they may be discussed and agreed upon with the applicant as y'all see fit. The planning board did hear this at their May 13th meeting and voted 4-3 to recommend approval of this request. As you can see on our vicinity map, southwest corridor of our county again, all the way at the Guilford line just about. Here's the zoning map. You can see that it's surrounded by RA, RP, RA across the street. There is some light industrial to the northwest. We're in the Troublesome Creek watershed, but the property more than meets the standards and requirements to be compatible with that watershed. Here's the land use map. This is our G3 corridor, which is our high growth corridor and does encourage commercial development. Here's an aerial of the property, so you can see what the existing conditions are of this area. I will note, as you can tell, that it does not abut Ferris Store Road at this point, which is one of the conditions that we will discuss here in a second. The conditions include limited uses in the neighborhood commercial district pared down, as well as a reduction of the required frontage for neighborhood commercial from 60 foot to 50 foot, and some landscape buffering, but also the recombination survey that would help get that frontage onto Ferris Store Road. Here's zoomed out of the aerial. If you see, it's accessing just at the north part of that map, that 50-foot stretch that goes to Ferris Store Road, but it's not connected to it. The property lines are divided, and it's using an access easement. The proposed site plan that we have for it would reconfigure those lot lines so that the neighborhood commercial piece would actually be adjacent to the property, and now the other parcel would use a dedicated access easement to be assessed. So that would meet those conditions that were discussed and agreed upon and voted upon at the planning board. The parcel itself measures roughly 4.42 acres. It's typical of the area, exceeds the minimum necessary size also for neighborhood commercial. Zoning change to the neighborhood commercial conditional district is supported by our land use plan. This is the G3 corridor. It will allow selected uses of the neighborhood commercial district to be used, but not all of them. There have been some complaints from the community, some supporters. That was all taken into account when the planning board reviewed things, and they felt it was appropriate and reasonable for this, with the reconfiguration, to be rezoned. And with that, I'll take any questions if you have them.
Marz, I have a question. So on the diagram with the reconfiguration, the black and white right there, or if you go back one, so where this entrance is slated on here, is that currently, so I drove out and looked at the property, and there's currently a driveway where there's a stone that has the name of the business on it. Is that,
Yes.
is that the location?
That's that location, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, any questions before we open the public hearing? Nothing heard. We'll open the public hearing at this time. Is the applicant here? Please make your way. Give us your name and address. You'll have 15 minutes to present your case.
Good evening. My name is Bill Greco. I'm with Land Solutions. Our address is P.O. Box 347 in Oak Ridge. We're here this evening representing the property owners, Daniel Wilson and Jamie Wall, at 225 and 243 Farrar Store Road in Stokesdale. I would like to thank the staff and the board for conducting the hearing tonight, and also thanks to the planning board for their hearing, where we received that favorable recommendation. You've heard our request from RA to CZ Neighborhood Commercial, those conditions that we touched on. Following that planning board meeting, we've had some discussions with some neighbors. We also held an open house on our own. We mailed out invitations using the same mailing list that the county uses to those adjacent property owners, and invited them to come out. Based on those discussions, we attempted to today, and I think our planning staff was out, but we would like to add 2 additional conditions, if it please the board. One of those conditions being hours of operation. We'd like to limit that to 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. The second one, similar to the previous case, the ordinance does specify lighting standards in Rockingham County, but we would like to add a condition that any site lighting installed on this site shall adhere to the relevant section 53.07 lighting standards as set forth in the Rockingham County UDO. So if it pleases the board, we'd like to add those 2 conditions tonight. Touching back on our uses, All uses listed in a neighborhood commercial district by definition should be compatible in a neighborhood or they wouldn't be listed. We've ruled out a vast number of those and just really narrowed this down, tried to tailor it really tight to our current use, which has been in place for over a decade, an office, and just a few others just in case. We're not trying to open Pandora's box here. We're trying to keep this very narrow, keep it, some of these uses, I know the parcel's not big enough, so forth, so on. But we've tried to keep our list of uses very precise on this parcel. Some items of note from the staff report and some of our other governing documents. We are consistent with that G3 land class, future land use map. And this request is reasonable and consistent with 3 of the 4 factors that are considered in there by the staff. 2 of those of note are demonstrated with our conceptual site plan and included in the conditions. The road frontage piece is in there, and the recombination by survey we've demonstrated on our conceptual plan that both of those are capable of being accomplished easy enough as a condition as we've presented here tonight. Where we do disagree with the staff report, in the consistency and reasonable determination section of that report, there's a statement in there that the uses among adjacent tracts are exclusively residential in nature. We do disagree with that. We believe strongly that Farrar Store Road is currently a mixed-use area, and that's demonstrated by existing non-residential uses, several of which, including ours, have been in place for well over a decade. Farrar Store Road, if you're not familiar with it, it's roughly 3,700 feet long, which is 0.6 of a mile. It's essentially a frontage road that parallels US Highway 220 North. It's flat, it's paved, painted center lines, painted lines on both shoulders, speed limit's 35 miles an hour. There's 23 properties with frontage that abut Farrar Store Road. Of those, 7 are commercial businesses of some variety. That ranges from a long-standing, grandfathered pest termination business to a construction company, hardwood flooring company, a racing company, a worm farm, and 1 other trucking endeavor. Mathematically, that means about 30% of the uses on that road are currently commercial. Doesn't mean they're zoned that way, but the uses are that way. And that data was updated today. Our sources are the Secretary of State's website, where you've got your annual reporting, Google data, and other publicly available data sets. So our point with that is Farrar Store Road is currently a mixed-use environment when it comes to uses. Our request, we believe, is reasonable, consistent with what's out there. Our history specific to this property, these folks have been in business since 2015. This is a family business. They have 8 employees currently. 6 of those are Rockingham County residents. The owners live on one of the 2 tracks that you see there in our conceptual site plan with their 3 children. They have 6 dump trucks, a dump trailer, a lowboy, and a road tractor. This business runs Monday through Friday with the occasional Saturday. The trucks leave in the morning and return at the end of the work day. And of course, have to drive right by the owners and their children and everything. They're coming in and out of the site. They have daily safety meetings. All these drivers have their CDLs. Prior to the recent complaints, we've not had any issues with the county, no issues with DOT, no violations of any type on this site. Throughout this process, we believe lots of effort has put forth by the owners to limit the uses. They've gone above and beyond to reach out and contact these neighbors and just remain flexible throughout this whole process to try to reach a proposal to put before you this evening that is reasonable and that has taken into consideration the surroundings and everything else. So again, as we've noted, already a mixed-use area. That's noted in our corridor plan, land use plan, future land use plan. Staff report largely in favor. Planning board recommendation for approval. We would like to think that you folks would recommend approval this evening as well. Happy to answer any questions, address any items that you may have for me.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Greco. With that, we will, you'll have a chance to respond after the other folks who have signed up to speak. So with that, we'll move, the first person on the list is Ashley McCollum. Please make your way, state your name and address, please. Good evening.
Good evening. And I have been yielded Kevin McCollum's minutes.
Name and address, please.
For our Store Road, Ashley McCollum.
Okay, and you've been yielded, so you have 6 minutes. Very good.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I have presented the Rockingham County Board of County Commissioners with a digital copy of the petition created and signed by the neighborhood, for our Store Roads to oppose the rezoning request for 225 Ferris Store Road to residential agricultural, from residential agricultural to neighborhood commercial conditional district. I hope you got to receive that digital copy, but I do have the original if you'd like to see it. The petition has 40 signatures that include 24 parcels. That is 77% of the neighborhood and surrounding area that is opposed to the rezoning. The 7 parcels that did not sign the petition are 3 neighbors who declined to sign due to fear of retaliation against by the applicant. One neighbor was in a conflict of interest because he has an owner-operator 18-wheeler tractor-trailer that parks on the applicant's property. The other neighbor has an established extermination business and is also on the planning board and was for the rezoning in the vote on the planning board meeting. And then there is 1 vacant parcel, which is actually having another new construction home in the process of being built. And 1 neighbor was not asked to sign because that neighbor tends to be known for keeping to themselves. So this petition speaks volumes about the neighborhood's opposition to the rezoning request. If the rezoning is approved, the only people who would benefit from this are the applicants. The rest of the neighborhood would continue to suffer from having to deal with noise pollution, increased traffic congestion, increased road damage, and increased safety concerns. So that's the part about the petition, and now I'll address my concerns and notes. So, the proposal to rezone the subject property will allow DTW Transport Inc. business to continue to grow significantly. I urge you to decline the rezoning request by honoring the neighborhood's opposition to have the company park their hauling and transport trucks in a residential zoned, to not continue to park them in a residential zoned area. The rezoning is only benefiting the business owners. So as mentioned in the May 13th Planning Board meeting, if the rezoning is approved, what we heard is there would be no restrictions on the size of the operations. DTW Transporting would be allowed to bring in more dump trucks, road tractors, and heavy equipment wide load haulers, and their neighborhood would just have to deal with it. The neighborhood already doesn't want the 11 dump truck fleet, 1 road tractor, and 1 heavy equipment wide load hauler that is currently running the roads as of today. Rockingham County zoned the lots on Ferris Store Road residential for a reason. The county intended to build houses that would create a friendly neighborhood for loving families to grow. I don't believe the county had the intentions to allow a high-impact commercial business to reside in a residential zoned area. The business is in the center of the neighborhood. The business impacts all neighbors in various ways. DTW Transport Inc. does not run their business during normal working hours. I have provided camera footage of them leaving early as 5:30 a.m., 4:30 a.m., and returning as 11:30 p.m., including weekends and holidays. Also, in the May 13th Planning Board meeting and tonight, Bill Greco mentioned that there are more businesses on Ferris Store Road. He mentioned about 6 businesses. The only Google mapped PIN businesses are the applicants and an exterminating business who was the gentleman on the planning board committee. The other businesses just have mailing addresses at their location, but they don't operate from their residence. They have an enclosed one. The wood flooring company has an enclosed trailer that's allowed to be able to be parked in the neighborhood. And the other, Beaver Creek Construction, I didn't even know that he had a business until it was brought up at the last meeting. So that shows the impact that they have on our neighborhood. Also, it was mentioned in the planning board meeting about other people with hobbies, racing, was mentioned tonight. And also previously, my husband's workshop was mentioned. And we actually do not own businesses. We just provide a service to our family or friends, and that was a hobby, not actually a business, like is being said. So the last thing that was mentioned at the board, at the meeting, that I want to mention is that when asked about why the zoning request is just coming up now, and the Bill Greco mentioned that most landowners don't know what UDO stands for, don't know what land use stands for, and particularly in more rural counties where people are more inclined to live and let live, they are not really aware it's an educational thing. Well, I'd just like to let you know that ignorance of the law cannot be used as a defense in court and should not be used as a defense in this matter. They should have done their homework 9 years ago and requested the rezoning before the neighborhood has filed complaints. So I just ask in conclusion that we hope that you consider the opinions of the homeowners, Rockingham County taxpayers living on Fair Store Road and the surrounding area by rejecting the proposal to rezone the subject property to neighborhood commercial condition.
Thank you, Ms. McCollum.
Thank you.
We have Patrick Cox. Please make your way. Give us your name and address, sir.
It's Patrick Cox. I live at 345 Ferris Store Road with my family. We've been there approximately 2 years. I initially didn't want to get involved in this matter. However, after continuing to see the increased activity of the dump trucks and after watching the video of the last meeting seemingly being accused and threatened by the owner's representative as being a non-compliant business, I felt the need to speak. I am the owner of a business. I do not operate from a home. I do, however, have more than 50 foot of road frontage. There are many issues to address with a business of this type and size to operate in a residential neighborhood. First issue that led the inspectors or the staff to have concerns, road frontage being one of them, the fact that the business is non-conforming and has been since its beginning. Many of those issues cannot be resolved. Next, a statement regarding the activity of the dump trucks being only in the morning and returning in the evening. This is a completely false statement, as we witnessed the dump trucks coming throughout the day at all hours, including early morning, late at night, and it's already been mentioned, weekends and holidays. In recent months, there have even been 18-wheelers coming and going. On a regular basis, there are fuel trucks that visit the site, which I've been told is because they have an above-ground tank for refueling their trucks. I'm assuming there's regulations for that also. Fair Store Road is a strictly residential road. This fact is clear to anyone who may visit. You will see only a sign for one business, and that is DTW Transport. That's because they are the ones that operate in that location. It can also be clearly identified as a residential neighborhood because of the continued residential growth. In the time that we have lived there, there have been 4 or 5 homes built. We're not interested in seeing anyone put out of business or having to move their business. We're happy for the success that they have found in their business. And as was brought out at the last meeting, it's a great business, but the wrong location. The big issue for me is that if this rezoning is approved, there will be no limits for the business regarding how many dump trucks they utilize. According to their own business updates, they currently have 11 and are growing. With rezoning, that will not be limited. They will have the freedom to also store material on the property as well. And last, with regard to the recommendation made to the commissioners, 2 of the board members that voted in favor, I feel like should not have been part of the vote. One lives and owns a business on the road, And the other indicated very early on that he knew their representative very well and was going to defer to what he said. And I feel like that's not right. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Elizabeth Romero. Please give us your name and address, ma'am.
Good evening, gentlemen. Elizabeth Romero. I live at 323 Ferrer Store Road, and I oppose this. And I just want you to picture something, okay? You gentlemen have your iced tea and you're sitting on your front porch at the end of your long day, right? You want to relax. This is your piece of heaven. This is your sanctuary. You have saved your whole life to have your house. Now picture this. Dump trucks just rumbling by, back and forth, back and forth. So what do? You decide to go inside. Well, it continues inside. You can close the doors, you can still hear it. It wakes you up when you're slumbering, 5:30 in the morning. You just sit straight up because what's happening? Here they come grumbling down the road. What happens at 11:30 p.m.? Same thing. Now, when we bought our homes on Farrar Store Road, we had no idea that this high-impact business was there. We wish we would have, because that could have swayed many of us in our choices of where we put into our nest eggs. We work hard on these homes. Mr. Byro, you said that you drove over there. You'd see very well manicured lawns. You see just the pride that we take in our homes. It's very disturbing to the whole neighborhood. It doesn't just impact not only just those who are adjacent to the property or have a complete view of the property. We live at the end of the road. So it's the comings and the goings. What can be done for us? You cannot put a barrier, a buffer. We're just constantly exposed to it. In that last meeting with the planning board, Mr. Grieco said that the road damage could be taken care of by NCDOT, that's not part of their responsibility, right? Well, if you saw the road, there is like a 12-inch pothole that's already been caused there. There's buckling, looks like the pavement is melting. Clearly, these trucks are damaging the road and nobody's fixing it. So we're all impacted in these types of ways. I would like to bring to your attention, just according to your own Rockingham County government website, commissioners will look at staff recommendations, which your paid staff at the planning meeting said that they did have true concerns. Planning board recommendations, we've heard about those. Public input, our petition speaks volumes of how the public feels, and deliberation should take into account all possible uses. This is the worst it's going to get, right? Dump trucks and lowboys hauling stuff. Is it compatible to this area, as Mr. Grieco says it is? We don't believe that it is compatible. It's right in the middle of a residential neighborhood, right in the middle, not at the end, not at the beginning. We're all impacted in some way. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Romero. Michael Friddle, please make your way and give us your name and address.
Good evening. Michael Friddle, 143 Michael Drive, Stokesdale. In 2015, Ferrer Store Road had 10 single-family homes located on it. Michael Drive at that time had 5. Foxhaven Lane had an additional 5 single-family homes. Fast forward to today. Ferrer Store Road now has 15 single-family homes. Michael Drive now has 6, as does Foxhaven Lane. All this growth has come under the zoning of residential agricultural. Now, Ferrer Store Road, for you that may not be familiar, used to connect directly into US 220. Well, I-73 ended that. Ferrer Store Road now is effectively a cul-de-sac. And with only one access to it, and that's off NC 65, which is a Y intersection. I'll get to that in a minute. And we have become a de facto development, much like all the other populated areas in southwest Rockingham County. You will have heard tonight by Mr. Grieco that at the time he said this in the planning board meeting, he said there were 6 businesses operating on Ferrer Store Road. He was immediately called out by the vice chair, Miss Julie Talbert. She was looking at county records that showed 3. Now, it's possible to run your own home business, not have anything stationed there, but use your home address. There's nothing wrong with that. People do it every day long, all day long. It was also stated that the business hours would be no more than 8 to 5 at that time, and now I understand he's changed that to 5 to 9. Well, how can you say that? Because business conditions dictate sometimes the hours you operate. We all know that. After all, in the last 10 days, I will mention that activity out there has started around 3 a.m. on 2 occasions. Ferris Store Road was not designed for this type of heavy truck sustained traffic. They must enter 65 from a Y intersection, and as in regards to the heavy trucks doing that, a highway patrol friend of mine stated, it sounds to him like an accident waiting to happen. This is increased with the fact that due to the growth along NC 65 towards Bethany, the traffic up on our end has increased exponentially in the last few years. There was also the attempt to bring Yates Construction Company in at the planning board meeting. There's only one problem. Yates is not located on Ferris Store Road, and he has direct access to NC 65, which means his trucks can pull out in a safe manner. I would also like to point out that the planning staff recommended rejecting this request. 3 members of the planning board voted against it, with 1 member even stated he applauded the owner's efforts, but this business was simply in the wrong place. I agree with that.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it. Lisa Rappa. Mr. Greco was signed up, but since you're the applicant, that's why I've skipped you on the list, because you'll have a chance to respond in just a moment. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lisa Rappa. I'm at 170 Fox Haven Lane. I have my list of things to speak, and people have spoke so well this evening that really what I'm just going to say is I agree with everything that they've spoken. I do want to say we need to be clear about what the zoning currently is, and there's a lot of talk about what businesses are there, but currently we are not zoned commercial. And this change is huge, because this is going to be the start of what can possibly change everything around it. So it's like it's spot zoning, that one small plot is being spoken about being changed to a different zoning level. And that's going to infect a lot of different people. And it's potentially can make a very quiet country neighborhood, which is what we like, and we may be along 73, but we still like to keep our tight country feel as much as we can. And so I just ask that you please listen to the rest of the community, as where there's one and then there's many, and please vote for your heart and how you feel for the best of the whole community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rappa. With that concludes the folks that have signed up to speak. And now we'll ask the applicant if he'd like to come back, and he'll have 7 minutes to provide rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We appreciate the opportunity to rebut. I'll start with some of what I think are the smaller issues. A petition is always a dangerous path, as we have no way to validate the signatures, where these folks reside, what they were told they were signing. It's a hearsay situation. Issues that are rather quickly addressed: road damage. We have no way to quantify that road has been damaged by this particular business or by one of their particular trucks. Their normal operations, the trucks leave empty and return empty. A loaded trash truck weighs more than an empty dump truck. Size-wise, a school bus, a trash truck, very similar in size and weight. So road damage in and of itself cannot be attributed to this. That is a DOT, state-maintained highway. pay your fuel tax, pay your road tax. We are all guilty of some level of damage to a road, but we can't attribute it to a use that we just particularly don't like. As to ignorance of the rules and regulations or pleading ignorance, that is perhaps getting into hearsay on my part. Our folks, prior to purchasing this land and obtaining a building permit, this property was family property. And they did ask a question of the Rockingham County staff. Perhaps they didn't ask the right question to the right person, but they asked the question. They made it plain, hey, we'd like to build a house. We have a trucking business. Is that going to be a problem? Their answer was, as long as nobody complains, shouldn't be. And they made a decision to proceed, but they did ask the question. Again, perhaps they didn't ask the right question, perhaps they didn't ask enough questions, and perhaps they didn't dig in deep enough, but they did ask. They didn't go into this blindly, and they're not here this evening pleading ignorance. They're here this evening with a very well thought out, very detailed request before you. What I believe we are missing this evening is the biggest question, which is use. We are predominantly surrounded by RA zoning. Within RA zoning, there are many, many uses that are allowed that are not single-family residential. Within RA, currently, tomorrow morning, the property right next to us can be developed as an athletic field, a park, a recreation building, playground, club or a lodge, a library, a golf course, a lumber yard, a poultry breeding facility, farm supply sales, a lumber yard. This is being portrayed as a planned community with HOAs and a lot of restrictions and the entirety of Farrar Store Road, and it's simply not true. There are a number of uses that are allowed by right, and a significant number of uses that are allowed as long as it meets development standards or even with special use permit. It is inappropriate to characterize Farrar Store Road as only single-family residential use. That is incorrect. All you have to do is look at your zoning district and your permitted uses within those categories. And as I said, many of them are allowed by right. A brewery is allowed as long as it meets the development standards, which are not that strong. So there are many uses that, in my opinion, your opinion, a neighbor's opinion, anybody's opinion, may be more or less obnoxious than others. But it is definitely the fact and the truth that there are more uses out there than single-family residential alone. Half, roughly, of Farrar Store Road, anything south of the entrance to this property, really shouldn't be affected much at all because traffic to and from, in and out of this site goes north to exit. They don't go down to Michael Drive or down to that other end of the road. So it's a small portion where that traffic goes in and out. And again, looking at this from a little wider lens, this is a mixed-use area. It's undeniable. You can't look at just the properties that touch this property. A little bit of a wider lens. Yates is right there on the corner. Highway 220 is right there. We talk about noise. The noise, Highway 220 makes a little bit of noise, much more so than what this operation does, in my opinion. So again, we think we have a very reasonable request. Again, we'd like to stress that we've been flexible, we've been agreeable, we've negotiated, we've tried to bring forth these conditions to bring this site into compliance. And I do feel like it's a slippery slope when we have a enforcement mechanism that is complaint-driven, when we have whether we want to get into the weeds on whether something is a business or it's not. The Secretary of State's office tends to believe there's a lot of business out there on that road. We tend to agree. This particular use, this particular landowner's here trying to do the right thing and come into compliance. And again, we'd appreciate your support on the request happy to answer any questions that you may have of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. At this time, we will close the public hearing. Everyone who has had an opportunity to speak, everyone that has signed up has had an opportunity to speak. So we'll close the public hearing. And gentlemen, do we have questions? I do. Mr. Greco, if you make your way up as well, we have some questions for you as well. Yeah, Commissioner Powell?
Mr. Greco, the problem with zoning, as I see it, or the problem that I have with it, is there's always a way to try to work around it. You know, you can always say, well, you've got Yates Construction over here this distance, you've got Highway 220 this distance, you've got a home-based business here. But the fact of the matter is, I think that what we're here tonight for is because the business that you represent is non-conforming to the current zoning. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so in order to get that to conforming, then we would have to change the zoning to appease this, your person that you represent at some imposition to the neighbors there. Is that correct? I mean, there's no way to correct this without changing the zoning for your clients. Is that correct?
I don't know that there's a way to make something that is currently non-conforming with respect to zoning without a rezoning.
Now, in 2015, I believe you made mention that they asked the planning board staff then if this was permitted, that they were going to have a trucking company there. And the answer was that they, if nobody complained about it. Certainly, if that is the fact, and we don't know, I wasn't there, but if that's the fact, then there's some indication there that it probably doesn't meet the zoning code if we've got to depend on somebody complaining or not complaining. Would you agree with that?
I wasn't there either. The owner who asked the question is here with us this evening, if you'd like to ask her directly, sir.
Sure. So what I'm saying is if you had posed the question, if you were seeking the rezoning and someone told you, yes, it'll work as long as nobody complains on it, then I think there's a reasonableness there to say, okay, we probably are not in compliance if we have to wait and see if somebody's going to complain on us or not. So there's some indication there, even at the statement that you mentioned, that they would have had some knowledge that this probably was not permitted in that neighborhood.
Without an indication of consequence, I don't know that that I agree with you.
I do agree with the fact, I don't like complaint-based systems either, Mr. Greco, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's the system that we work under. So
certainly,
I don't agree with that. Let me ask you one more thing. In 2015, I was in the grading business for many years, so I have some knowledge of this. In 2015, I suspect they started probably with one truck when they moved there. Is that correct?
I have no knowledge of their initial number of vehicles, no, sir.
Okay. And then what would, I think that the neighbors have a valid point. What stops them from continuing growing? What stops from us going to, whether it's 6, 8, or 11 trucks to 20 trucks? What in the plan that you presented if we change the zoning?
Currently, the conceptual site plan that is in front of us shows a parking lot or a parking area that, while not fully dimensioned, infers a reasonable size. It has been drawn to scale to accommodate the 10.
I'll move to it so that everybody can see what we're talking about. There you go.
Thank you. As shown, the parking area is to the south of the existing shop building and to the south of the existing office building. That parking area, to scale, I can't read it at this level, but there should be a dimension on that building itself. That is some indication of size and scope. Making some assumptions, should this rezoning be approved, then there would be a requirement for a detailed site plan which would indicate a number of parking spaces should the site be constructed, the county staff would be required to perform a final site inspection prior to these folks being allowed to operate. And then should they desire to expand in the future, then it would be incumbent upon the owner and/or the county to revisit a detailed site plan for any such expansion. There's certainly nothing in this current proposal as a condition that limits expansion, but it is a conditional use application, and I'm certainly open to any suggestion you may have that speaks to future expansion if that will alleviate concern.
So, Mr. Marziano, the question is, how do we control the growth if we were to choose to go that route? Because obviously this was started, and as I understand it, may have been expanded without any oversight from the county because it is a non-compliant site. So what would stop this from being expanded in the future once this issue is resolved here tonight, if we choose to allow the rezoning?
Good question. Theoretically speaking, y'all could apply conditions. In the past, when we had conditional rezonings that involved site plans, a popular condition always placed on it was that either any changes to that site plan had to be re-reviewed by either this board or by some other appointed board, TRC, or that staff could do it. We'd have to do it regardless because they'd be coming in to change the site for a commercial area. But that's always been a condition that kind of permeated through the 90s and early 2000s, that any site plan amendments did require coming back through this process. That's the only thing I can think of that would limit growth of the site. As far as parking extra vehicles and everything, I'm not sure.
So just because we have a site plan that shows parking places for 11 trucks, we may could, in that same confined area, get 13 or 14.
Not knowing the full dimensions of everything, it is to scale, and trying to read the numbers there, it got a little difficult. The building looks like it's about 77 feet long, so taking that into effect, it's about 1.5 times that size of the parking area, so.
Houston's got a question.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barrow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually a question for our attorney, Clyde. I've heard a couple of people out here tonight mention conflicts. They said that they felt like there were conflicts on the planning board. What an individual feels as a conflict and what the state of North Carolina lays out as a conflict are probably different things, just for everybody's benefit and the benefit of the public. Could you explain when there is actually a conflict where somebody has to recuse themselves?
Commissioner, when you have a direct financial interest in the outcome, is when you have a conflict you should probably recuse from voting on.
So according to the state of North Carolina, unless there is a direct financial conflict, that's for the purposes of being on a board, that doesn't qualify as a conflict. Is that correct? Thank you.
That's correct.
Commissioner Berger?
And Mr. Albright, I believe with this being a conditional application, just piggybacking and hopefully clarifying some of the questions that Mr. Powell asked, I believe we could limit the number of parking spaces, and we could also limit the number of vehicles on that site. Is that correct?
The board needs to look at the reasonableness of the request and can limit that to make it reasonable with the neighborhood that you're putting this in.
And
yes.
I believe we could also put restrictions on operating hours. I know the applicant put in I guess you can say, a further stipulation, but with it being conditional, we could also do something along those lines too. Is that correct?
That could be set forth in the site plan.
Okay.
Let me ask one question first. We touched on the hours of operation, and someone said that before there was a different hours of operation, and you offered a modification. I'll ask Margie, what was the original limit, and what are we considering revising that to?
We don't have an original limit that was in our original review. Hours of operation wasn't an original condition.
Okay, I
I
just
think
wanted
I
to,
think they have just been operating like around 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock or whatever, till they come in.
okay, so this is a new restriction.
This is a
that
new
the owner's
condition. They-
willing
Yeah.
to go by. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Powell?
So, Mr. Marziano, as I said earlier, there's some problems with zoning when it comes to situations like this, because it's certainly not my intention, nor do I think it's anybody on the board's intention to cause a problem for viable operating business in the county. However, if we approve this, what do we do for the neighbors? Because they're here tonight saying they have a problem with this. Now, it appears this started in 2015, and to my knowledge, we've not had any complaints until the last couple of months. I don't know what generated the complaints, but nevertheless, we're now faced with a business that's non-compliant with our own zoning. If we continue to, as the lady said, basically, if we continue to find reasons to change things to accommodate those who are non-conforming, then it really doesn't do us any good to have zoning. Because we can just change any of them at will, basically. So how do we rectify this and make the neighbors happy as well? Because we're talking about the owners of this business, and I certainly sympathize with them. I've been in this business before. But at the end of the day, zoning is to protect everybody in that area. Any ideas?
Well, other than adding conditions that you feel would be reasonable and appropriate, there's really not much I can think of. They're already pretty much surrounded by the woods, so they've got some screening. They do need to make sure they meet our development standards for buffers, but it's still landscaping buffers. Lighting choices, all that still have to meet our standards when they come in for us to approve those kind of things. So other than adding on additional conditions, which I'm not sure what you would, to appease the complaints that they were receiving. I mean, traffic congestion, if you think you can limit the number of vehicles on site, that's one condition. Road deterioration, that's an NCDOT issue, not an issue for us to hammer out. Noise, we have our noise ordinance administered through the Sheriff's Department. I can't remember the hours for that. I want to say, Ben.
I think.
Ben, do you remember the hours? The hours for noise? Yeah. 6 to 10, okay. Yeah, 6 to 10, so, but otherwise, the best that staff came up with and why we proposed rejection is because of those factors, we felt this particular site to be unreasonable. And like I said, the planning board disagreed based on arguments and decisions. And the biggest issue is of finding a way to make this meld into a neighborhood. Without stacking additional conditions, I don't know how you can address their concerns. But what those conditions are, Lynn and I have racked our brains trying to look at a few things, and outside of what we would normally do to someone by increased vegetative buffer, but there's already a building there that's already 25 feet, needs to be 30 feet technically, so it'll become a non-conforming structure, even though it's conforming currently, the structure is, not the use of it, but the structure itself is. There's mitigating factors that need to be considered that I don't have a solution for you. We've racked our brain thinking about it.
Let me ask a question. On the other side of that, we've had the land use plan for many years, and this 220 corridor has been designated as a business development mixed-use corridor, if you will, for a long time. If you look at our most current plan put out in 2020, it shows it from the county line all the way to the state line.
Correct.
And this area is in that. So we've told the public for many years that we would look favorably upon businesses in this corridor. Just to say it, one of the folks tonight said ignorance of the law is no excuse. I agree with that. But additionally, we've had this business plan out for years showing that 220, it would be a business development corridor prior to most of these houses being built. So I'm really torn. This is a tough case for me. It really is.
And like I said before, this is consistent with the land use plan. There's no denying that.
Right. Yeah, okay. Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble narrowing down the exact nature of the neighbors' complaints. I've had some individual conversation, but they've talked about tearing up the road and noise. One individual mentioned light to me. And I'm sure those are annoying. They annoy me from the traffic in front of my road, and my road is a quarter mile away from me. And it still bothers me. But it does seem to me like we're getting down to the point where we're looking at certain individuals, members of this neighborhood, are concerned with an annoyance of some sort. And the applicant is concerned about their livelihood. I think I'm sure we can limit the parking spaces. You guys don't go out and monitor how these parking spaces are being used on a daily basis. So I think that's fraught with the potential to be abused. And I'm pretty impressed with this business. The individuals at a fairly young age have become opportunistic and entrepreneurs extraordinaire, and they're growing. I wouldn't want to put a limitation on how much they can grow, you know. How much do you want to grow? However, that's what it is now, is an individual's right to a livelihood with the existing business versus the neighbor's annoyance with whatever their complaint might be. And they're multiple, I understand that. So I'm trying to narrow it down there so that I can focus on what. I do know one thing, having done this zoning thing for at least 12 years. Zonings change, and they have to change. The nature of business changes. The nature of where people want to live change. When we started zoning, just about every property in the county was RA. And gradually they've been changed over a period of time. So we expect change, and we need to do that. At the same time, we want to be as consistent and predictable as we can for those people wanting to either put a residence or a commercial establishment or a ballpark, whatever you talked about. So I, too, am twisted in this. And on top of that, I told somebody earlier, I may be the only person in here that remembers Ferris Store Road when there was actually a Ferris store on it. And it was not what I'd call residential at that time. That was almost purely an agricultural place. So things change whether you want it to or not. I'm sorry to elaborate.
No, thank you, no problem. Commissioner Berger?
Yes, I'm not sure what prompted, what changes occurred to prompt the complaints. I do think that once zoning went into effect and you have something that's in an RA district and it's limited as far as any neighboring uses, then you're running risk anytime you grow. What I would like to see happen is, I think, well, let me back up. The applicant, I think, sees some of the neighbors' concerns, hears some of the commissioners' concerns, and to me, there is a limit on the amount of growth that he could have at that location. And whether that's the best location for his business or not, it's not for us to decide as far as where he could get the most bang for his buck, so to speak. But I would like to, well, I don't know if the applicant's willing to meet with the neighbors and perhaps work out some sort of compromise to see what is compatible with them, because it didn't sound like the complaints came in until the last few months, or is there a history of complaints that just didn't get addressed.
To my knowledge, the complaints started about a month and a half before they came in to start this process.
Okay. And so I'm not sure, and we don't need to get into a back and forth as to what caused it, but if the applicant is willing to meet with the neighbors and the neighbors are willing to meet with the applicant to try to work out some sort of solution, because it is his livelihood, and we're certainly compassionate to that, then I'd certainly entertain tabling the matter until, maybe the July or August meeting to give them time to meet and see if they can work out some sort of solution instead of us making the decision tonight. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But that's certainly something, if you want time to speak with your client.
If I could speak to that, Commissioner Berger, we did what I mentioned before. Following the planning board hearing, my office, we mailed out an invitation to an open house. We rented the Stokesdale Town Hall, and last Friday.
In another county.
I understand it's physically the closest venue that I could obtain to invite people to an open house. Historically, we use fire departments and churches, but now we've got insurance regulations and all this. So in any event, we invited using the county's same mailing list. And I have that invitation, I think, with me. We had 4 people in attendance. I don't know. I'm certainly not opposed to trying again. I just want you to be sure that you understand we did that. We invited everybody. We waited intentionally until after the planning board, until everybody had had an opportunity. And only had 2 couples attend. Lively discussion, great discussion, but we only had 2 couples to attend that meeting.
Yes. You ready? Okay. Yeah, Commissioner Berger, let me recognize you, and
Is Commissioner Berger finished with his comment? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think everybody understands this is not an easy case to decide, and I just want to go ahead and state for the record that my least favorite responsibility as being a commissioner is dealing with public hearings for rezoning. In my heart and in my bones, I feel like people should be able to do what they want with their property, and that's just part of me, that's part of my philosophy. And if we could get a popular support from the county, anybody's listening to me, if y'all just want to abolish zoning altogether, just come let us know. We can have a hearing about that.
Second.
But the point I think that I'm trying to get at is that we do have zoning and that we do have expectations we have to follow when we're looking at zoning cases. And those expectations, as the planning staff has pointed out, is reasonableness and consistency. I don't think there's any question that being in the G3 land class, this is consistent with the mixed-use neighborhood commercial that we've been looking at for a number of years. The problem I see is reasonableness. If I could snap my fingers and just make a wish, I wish that the applicant would have made this request in 2015 when he started his businesses before all these houses were built. Obviously, the reasonableness of the neighborhood in 2015 versus now would have been much different considering how many houses have been built residentially there. So for me, the reasonableness is an issue because I don't think there's any question if anybody's heard any meeting we've had or the commissioners have had in the past 10 years, G3 land class, that's where we're looking to have business. But I'm having an issue with the reasonableness due to the current nature. With that being said, I feel that the applicant may be a victim of his own success. He may have reached a point in his business where maybe he's outgrown the parcel, unfortunately. I don't know how the other commissioners feel about it, but I just can't, in good conscience, no matter how I feel about zoning, I can't see this as being reasonable and consistent. I can see it being consistent, I just don't see the reasonableness of it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Richardson?
This more in the nature of a comment as well. You made a very good point, ma'am, when you talked about had you known the trucking business was there, let the buyer beware. And these folks have been there longer than most of you. Maybe they should have been more aware at the time and realized the potential to grow that. But it's indicative of the change and the difficulty in trying to rectify with a statute or application thereof a problem which naturally arises as more people get into the same size area. And like I said, for me, I hate to do anything to restrict somebody's mode of living, their lifestyle, and the ability to grow their business. I'm not sure if the conditions that we would put on them would be adequate to do that. So I'm also in a quandary, and I can tell you right now, I haven't decided which way I'm voting. I'm listening to everything and all the very good counsel, in my opinion, that was brought forward here. So that was no help at all, but there you have it.
Well, again, this is the toughest case I think that I've heard since being on this commission for the last 6 years. Commissioner Powell?
Ms. McCollum, can I ask you a question, please?
Absolutely.
So Commissioner Berger suggested that there be some conversation between the community and the applicant. Would you be open to that? And if so, do you see a way forward to mitigate this without the man moving his business, or is that the only solution you think there is to this? And I'm asking you just because you had the most time, spoke eloquently.
I was not given an invitation to that town hall meeting. The mailing addresses that was sent out by the county did a 1,000-foot surrounding area of the property, which did include Michael Drive and Fox Haven residents. But I live at the very top of the road, and as Mr. Greco said, the trucks go my way. So I have not been contacted by the residents to try this, to come to an agreement. I would be glad to sit down with them and have an amicable discussion and see if we can work this out. But
Get this right.
again, the amount of trucking, as everybody has said, is a very big concern.
Away from the property in
But
question. And her complaint is no way.
Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Greco, right there you are. Commissioner Berger's put forth this opportunity. Would you like to consider that and us vote to table it for 30 days or 60 days, or what do you want, or do you want a decision tonight? Because right now, I can't tell you what that decision would be. I don't know that it would be in your favor. I don't know that it'd be against you. It's a tough case. But if the neighborhood can come together and work out a solution on their own, it's going to be much better than us working out a solution.
Understood, Commissioner Powell, and I think tabling to a date certain, I would hope that we could return before this body, and I can assure you we will broaden our mailing list. We don't have a lot of new information to bring to the table, but we're certainly all ears and very willing to work with and see if we can come to a more peaceful solution to sway some of these folks, particularly some of the ones that we may have never heard from. So tabling to a date certain is certainly something we would appreciate the opportunity.
First meeting in September?
Or August, or, I mean,
May, I don't mean to interrupt you, gentlemen, but can you also get the county off our back at the same time?
Oh, absolutely.
Put him on the sidelines.
That we can do.
Just for the record, I know that was meant as a joke, but all code enforcement actions are stayed until a decision is made.
Well, so why don't we look at, generally we hear these on our second meeting in the month. So we could either do August, if we choose to do this as a first meeting in September, that would be fine with me. But I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Well, I would make a motion, we do it the second meeting in August.
Let me just, folks, what we're trying to do with vacations and making sure that there's enough time for everybody to have some conversation, we only have one meeting in July. So that's why, as far as putting it to the July meeting, that July meeting date is the third Monday, second Monday? Third Monday of July. So just to make sure that we can accommodate any vacations as well. That's why we would be putting it off until maybe that August meeting. I would also say in the interim that I would hope that the applicant would be mindful of operating hours, because we have heard some concerns about 3 a.m. and some hours that even by the applicant's current recommendation or potential solution is a different time than that. So I would hope the applicant would work within some reasonable timeframes if those vehicles going by at that time are the applicants.
If you have the jake brake on those dump trucks, have them cut it off. That'll help matters a lot.
All right, so we have a motion then
Motion,
to hear
second
this the second.
meeting in August.
All right, that'll be the third Monday in August. Yes, and we have a second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Folks, thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. This is a tough case, I want to tell you. It's a tough case. Thank you, Marzie.
Thank you all very much.
With that, guys, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and we'll resume in 5 minutes. All right, very good. Roy, you ready? All righty, good evening. We are back in session. I appreciate those who have stayed tuned in and those who have stayed in the audience. So we appreciate that. Next on our list is a presentation by Dr. Mark Kinlaw and Ms. Sheila Regan, Vice President of Academic Affairs, an update on our quarter-cent sales tax project. Thank you, folks. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Well, thank you all for having us and inviting us to talk about something we're excited about and that we think is going to be really good for our county. A little different approach to this. I've asked Ms. Regan to come tonight with me. So I'll talk a little bit about the building. We got 2 projects we're going to talk about, the Center for Workforce Development and our, of course, which is the primary emphasis and part of our presentation. We'll also talk about our Industrial Technology 2 building, because we're renovating it for welding. So we'll show you some pictures, but I'm going to let her talk a little bit more, a little different approach tonight. Let her talk more about what's going on behind the scenes to get ready to occupy the building from a programming standpoint. Equipment, those types of things that, we can build buildings, but we have to have the right kind of programming and that meet what the workforce needs are. And so there's a lot of work that's been going on behind the scenes for 2 or 3 years to get ready for all of this. So I'll start and just Ms. Regan's going to cover most of this, but you can see the revenues from the quarter-cent sales tax. Of course, was passed in May of 2018, but started collecting in the late fall of that year, and you see the amount of money that we have collected, a little over $10 million. And then you see the expenditures. I will caution you to, and please understand that what is left there is obligated now to the new building and also to the renovated building. The building that's being renovated is being partially funded by quarter-cent sales tax, and the Center for Workforce Development is being fully paid for through quarter-cent sales tax revenue. So obviously, I think all of you have been, some of you actually have toured the building. I invite you, those that have not, please come over. We'd love to have you and sort of send that invitation out to the public. We'll certainly be entertaining a lot of tours over the next several months, I'm sure, over the next couple of years, as people will be interested to see what the building looks like. We're very excited about it, but you see the building there. That's kind of looking from sort of over where the circle is from the administration building. But you see that view of it. This is as you drive into the property. Of course, we did some curbing not long ago. We've got a circle as you come up to the building. We will be doing something with that circle over the next year or so. We're not quite sure yet what we will put on that circle, but we want it to be part of a really nice entrance to that part of our campus. So we're completing construction. We're moving in equipment and furniture. We'll show you some pictures in just a minute. We're also preparing for a grand opening and the start of classes. We hope to be able to start classes, I think, August 14th. And that is the plan for both buildings, the renovated building, of course, the new Center for Workforce Development. So things have come along really nicely. The architectural firm has been very good to work with. Barr Construction, the contractor, has also been very good to work with. Yes, we would like to have finished a little earlier, but we've run into all sorts. You always run into things, and of course, coming post-COVID, there was all sorts of issues with supply chains, and that has impacted the completion of the project. But we're getting very close now. So you will also see that the building is about 42,000 square feet. Of course, it's all one story. It'll house several programs: our computer integrated machining program, electrical systems, mechatronics, engineering technology, a new program that Ms. Regan will speak to. It'll also house our small business center, our customized training offices, corporate customized training being that we work with the state of North Carolina to do a lot of training for local industry. A lot of times that's part of incentive packages as industry locates here. So we are always busy doing that. We will have a meeting space. We call it our corporate meeting space. It'll seat about 200. It will be very flexible. It will not have fixed seating, so you'll be able to come in and arrange that room the way you would want to. Certainly we want the public to use it. We want business and industry to use it. And that is part of why we have that. Of course, it includes faculty offices, student lounge. Is a really nice main area as you walk in, lobby area. So I think that you see that here with the main lobby. So we are getting close. We think once we get occupancy, we have to go through the Office of State Construction, of course, all the inspections that we'll have to do. But we are moving some equipment in there now so we can hook that up to make sure all the electrical is working properly. And so we're hoping to have a grand opening in mid-August. We have a tentative date right now of August the 12th, but that's very tentative. But we'll certainly be communicating that to the public, and once we know for sure that can happen. So hopefully that will not get pushed into late August or into September. So real excited about the project, and you'll remember it's about a $26 million project when you include the equipment in it and the technology and all those sorts of things. And so it is a major project. Industrial Technology 2 building is on the same time schedule. We think it will be completed this month. Ran into one glitch with it, but that is being rectified now. So we think that building will be ready on about the same timetable. Hopefully we'll get occupancy this month. With it, remember, it is all welding. We have pretty much gutted that Industrial Technology 2 building. It's about a 15,000 square foot facility, so we'll go from 17 to 40 stations in welding. And before I get too much into the programming, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Regan, let her talk about some of those, and she'll scroll through some of the pictures and talk about the program, then we'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Good evening. I know it's a long night, and I appreciate your attention. It's the first time I think I've got to talk to you about the new building and our renovated building, so I'm excited to be here. One of the things that we started thinking about a year and a half, 2 years ago, is that we really wanted to create programs, revise our programs, and create programs where students left that with some type of micro-credential, where there was some certification and evidence to an employer that these are the things that students can do. So we partnered with NC3, National Coalition of Certification Centers. And what that group does is they work with major industry in sectors. Lincoln Electric's welding, Festo is control systems, automation, and Starrett is precision measurement for machining. They develop the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, and abilities, and they create curriculum. We purchase the equipment, then we inherit that curriculum and the KSAs that students need to perform that specific job in that sector. It's about $5,000 a year. It's very cheap, I think, to join that center, but we get curriculum and we get industry-approved KSAs. So when you enter the building, the first instructional space on the left is going to house our computer integrated machining lab. What you see there are Haas CNC mills and lathes. We've ordered 6 of each. We received a Haas Foundation grant of $750,000, and that went a long way to construct that space. Further down the hall is our manual machining lab, and we've purchased 8 manual mills and lathes. And I know we received some criticism from the community about teaching manual machining, but it is a foundation concept to CNC machining. If you don't understand a manual machine, you cannot operate the CNC machine. So in our computer integrated machining program, we offer a 2-year degree. We have revised a certificate. You may recall we taught a machining program on the campus at Reidsville High School. We're bringing that program to the new Center for Workforce Development building in the fall. We've added a CNC course, so students will take a manual course, safety, metrology, and a CNC course. Students who finish that certificate are employable at Ruger or a machine shop to do some entry-level CNC operations. Our plan, we want students to complete, high school students to take this certificate as a junior. As a senior, they can start taking courses toward the 2-year degree. By the time they finish high school, they'll be more than 50% complete with a 2-year degree. The other program that we've developed, mechatronics engineering technology, but prior to that, as a way to get individuals interested in mechatronics, we developed a continuing education program called Certified Production Technician. Completion of that program, individuals are ready to go work in a manufacturing facility. The piece of equipment you see there, we wrote a grant for our system office to employ a faculty member and purchase the Skills Boss trainer. And in that trainer, there's a PLC, a programmable logic control, electronics, and hydraulics. So students are able to take those individual pieces out, put it back together, connect them so they automate and work together, and earn 4 micro-credentials. Earning those 4 micro-credentials, and passing them, of course, will give them 5 courses toward our mechatronics engineering technology degree. Since we have a school board member here, let me plug, in the 9th and 10th grade, our RCS is going to offer courses that align with advanced manufacturing. So these students will have some context as a junior, complete certified production tech, then they can move into mechatronics engineering as seniors. What you're looking at now on the right, that is a DC-AC electrical trainer. On the left, those are motors and control trainers. I think we've purchased 8 of each. So introductory level courses, we let students practice on the trainers. Then, as they learn some skills, they get to work on control panels. And so systems that require high voltage operate off a control panel. A control panel is $12,000, and we needed to order 10 of them. John Pendleton, our mechatronics faculty, said, hey, how about we spend about $3,000 or $4,000, buy the parts, and let students build these control panels. And so I'm really proud of his class over the past year and a half. It's taken several cohorts, but we've saved $7,000 on each trainer because the students have built the control panels that will go into the new building. And when you talk to those students, they are awfully proud of their work. Another concept in mechatronics engineering technology are hydraulics and pneumatic trainers. So we've purchased 6 of these. They're actually 2-sided, so you have a student working on each side. Another big concept are robotics. So what you see now is one huge robotic trainer, but we purchased 6 of these so students could work at each level. So there's a 3-part system there, and they will learn how that works, connect the 3 of them, and then program a robot that you see in this design to pick up the piece that was made and distribute it on the production floor. And I can't wait to see that. Can't wait to see that. Robotic certifications will be earned in every robotics course. We have 3 FANUC robots, and we're ordering a couple of KUKA. Any questions about the Center for Workforce Development building?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
No, you go
Mr.
ahead.
Powell.
I didn't see carpentry or plumbing. Where are they at?
Okay. I'm glad you asked.
You knew I was going to.
Yes, we have two of you in that sector. So when we move out of Industrial Technologies 1, so those programs are currently in Industrial Technologies 1, building native, one of the first 4 buildings built on the campus in 1966. Our plan is to step back and do skilled trades in IT 1. So we have an electrical systems diploma program that we're revising to make it more about construction. So in that skilled trade center, we will have HVAC, we'll have some welding in the other building, carpentry, plumbing, and basic electrical.
Good.
So once we move out, we will shift our resources and attention to IT1 to build a skilled trade center.
Commissioner Richardson.
Yes, I kind of hate to bring this up because Dr. Kinlaw and I,
And don't, no, go ahead.
well, we started when we were talking about the trails. I'm interested in do you have the instructional staff that you want to take full advantage of this equipment?
Absolutely. So one of the things, I know, Lance, help me with this pot of money. We call it ETWI money, but Lee calls it something else. It's the Office of State
Management, OSBM funds.
OSBM budget. You've looked at those line items. So what we were able to do with that money is 6 of our 8 faculty have received some professional development that we would not have been able to have
So you
sent
took
them to.
existing staff and
Existing, right.
upgraded their credentials?
Yes, yes.
Well, while I'm on it, I happened to notice you had several 3D printers in your, and they look to be exactly the same that the school system has. At least Rockingham County High had a lab with them. Is that optical illusion?
You know, I don't know, because I was told, we had a big shipment today. I was told our 3D printers had not arrived. So for computer integrated machining, there's a metrology lab, there's a computer lab where they have SolidWorks and GibbsCam, and they will do 3D printing.
Oh, yeah. Well, the point of the question was continuity between what the youngsters are doing at the high school and then coming to you.
I will tell you, I'm feeling very good about the alignment and our conversations that we're having to set the stage for these students in the 9th and 10th grade. Our Golden Leaf Foundation grants, I'm getting all the money mixed up. So we had almost $800,000, Dr. Kinlaw, $800,000 Golden Leaf grant focused on advanced manufacturing, skilled trades, and healthcare. And in that grant, our RCS partners are doing 2 computer labs, purchasing some 3D printers. So yes, there will be some alignment to the work they're doing. And when the student comes over to the college, they'll see the same printer, hear some of the same information.
Thank you.
All right. So the second major renovation, so we took IT2, which used to house HVAC, and we converted it to welding. So went from 17 stations to 40 stations. And interestingly, in my tenure at the college, welding has been the program that we turn students away. Okay. This is the program where high school students are most interested. And so we have typically a capacity of 12 to 15. We've filled 1 section already. Now we're able to serve those high school students another cohort of 12 to 15. This processor, this welder that you see is from Lincoln Electric, and it's a multi-processor welder. So what we use now are Miller machines, and you can do one type of welding. There's a stick welder, a MIG welder, a TIG welder. These machines are multi-process, so we can do different types of welding using this machine. What we've never had is a CNC plasma table, so we will be able to create some fabrication classes and fabrication certifications. I see that on HGTV, and I know it's going to work a little differently, but I can't wait to see that in operation with metal. This is a new 95-ton ironwork, and I'm really not sure how this works, but when it came through, this will help us save scrap metal. So I think it will press and shape metal where we can reduce our waste, and that will be greatly beneficial to do something with the metal that's not used. Any questions about IT2?
Any questions? No questions. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your presentation tonight.
I can just say one thing. I have to say that Ms. Reagan and David Dillard is our dean in this area, in this advanced manufacturing area, but they have worked incredibly hard behind the scenes for more than 2 or 3 years to get us in a position where we have the right faculty, we have the training, we have the curriculum, we have the programs. And of course, we're always looking to adjust those as industry demands that and as things change in the workforce. But they've worked incredibly hard, deserve a lot of credit, work with their faculty. So I think we're in a good position. We just got to get occupancy and get going. But
it's a very real possibility we'll be able to utilize that building this fall. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
We're banking on the equipment's in there. I don't know where we're going to teach machining if we don't get to start.
Yeah, we've moved the equipment. But we'll be in a much better place when it comes to advanced manufacturing and what we can do in that area. But thank you all for your support.
And skilled trades, that's high on our priority list.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Reagan. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you. We
Kinlaw.
appreciate the opportunity.
Mr. Manager.
No, sir.
Very good, thank you. With that, we're going to go to commissioner comments, and I'll ask Commissioner, hang on one second. Okay, Commissioner Barrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight, I just wanted to let everybody in the county know we had a big loss over the weekend. Bob Carter, who is our county historian, passed away. Bob was a great resource for the county. Genealogy is a hobby of mine where my wife would tell you that I take up way too much time working on that, but he was the man that knew anything and everything about Rockingham County. He's been a great asset at the Mark, and he's going to be greatly missed. His arrangements have not been finalized yet, but I was told we're looking at Saturday the 22nd, so keep looking in the papers to see the finalized arrangements, but he'll be greatly missed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Richardson.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to everybody that was attending. Good input, useful input for making that decision. I'd also like to recognize Bob Carter. He has supported many of our county activities, training programs, Leadership Rockingham, jack of all trades, and he really loved the county, as well as doing an excellent job as our ex officio historian. We have a program to identify a volunteer of the month, a person who's a resident of Rockingham County and has volunteered and provided service. And that program has kind of fallen by the way with when we had COVID, we were having fewer opportunities to input that, and we didn't have the public gathering that we normally enjoy for that. So I'm encouraging anybody here in this conversation, if you have somebody deserving of being identified as Volunteer of the Month, please let our Commissioner's clerk there, Susan Washburn, know about it, and we'll get that name to the right person and get them a recognition. And speaking of attaboys, I like to recognize people on our staff, and one of the people on our staff is our Assistant County Manager, Derek Southern, and particularly in the last few months as we've dealt with budget, he's done yeoman's labor to the nth degree. If you don't know Derek, his original expertise was in the IT field, and he sorted out a lot of problems at the time that he came on board. and has made us far more efficient and has helped us save monies on many occasions in the IT area. He's also very good at identifying excellent help in hiring good IT people. So I'd like to recognize Derek Southern tonight with an attaboy for all he does for Rockingham County.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Berger?
Thank you, and thank everyone for coming out tonight. Since our last meeting, we did have our high school graduation, so congratulations to all of the graduates for this year. I believe everything went pretty well. We had great weather for each of the graduations, so congratulations to them. We've also got an issue I'll go ahead and address that may impact tax bills, that we don't have all the information yet. We are still getting information from insurance companies as far as what that cost would be. And I believe what I understand is we will, instead of adjourn tonight, actually recess the meeting to a later date that we'll discuss, try to come up with what that date is. I believe we've got to have a reasonable amount of time as far as advertising anything to the public as far as the public notice requirements for anything that could impact the tax bill. I believe if we're recessed tonight and not adjourned, then we're okay as far as any 10-day requirement for the notice that would be required for a hearing or for the notice for our meeting. So I believe last indication, hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have some better numbers and be able to put that out. But there could be an impact on the tax bill. We don't know that yet. It may not be, but there could be. Just waiting to still gather some information. So
1 o'clock. You all right with 1 o'clock?
The
28th.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's a Friday.
Yeah, Friday the 28th. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Powell?
So we'd like to recognize Paula Rakestraw, our liaison from the school board, who so faithfully sticks out these meetings. And I believe that she's the only elected person that I've seen here tonight. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we've been here long enough, and I have no more comments.
Thank you. As Commissioner Berger said, after closed session tonight, I don't anticipate any business tonight following closed session, but we will recess until Friday, the 28th of June at 1 o'clock p.m. So with that, do I have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A1 to approve closed session minutes and NCGS 143-318.11A3 consult with attorney concerning the Kyle Kepley case? Do I have a motion? Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are in closed session. Thank you.